Uh, Thank you, everyone. This one I'll do in English, so get ready. So I have no idea who's in the room. So who's in the music, video, entertainment business? Just a few. And who's in big data? And the rest of you are just snuck in here and have no business. So what do the other people do? I don't know. Students. Who's a student? Shouldn't you be in school? No, okay, sorry. So the music business has always used data. In the past, we have had charts. You know, this goes back to the 1950s. We actually had pretty detailed information. This is the Billboard charts from 1957, and they look at, you know, which disc jockeys played the music, which jukeboxes in nightclubs and restaurants were playing the music. Pretty sophisticated for its time. And now we do things like in America we have SoundScan, which is surprisingly unsophisticated because once a week it tells us who's the -- artist. In a way, maybe we haven't moved on that far. So what I want to do today is start with giving you a little bit of a case study of an artist I work with. This is a band from Denmark called the Ravenettes, and this is a picture of their gig last week in London, a big sold-out gig. And over the summer, they had a new album that they were going to release. And the idea was, rather than do it the traditional way of having a marketing campaign for 6 months and then release an album, they just released the album and did all the marketing after the day of the release. So one of the things we started to do was just the week of the release, started to create assets. So this is a little video that they had posted. Don't worry, I'm not going to try and play it. I saw the YouTube presentation, so we're just going to look at it. So this was a little video that they used because by using this, they could start to, just the week of the release, start to build up the audience a little, or the week before the release, build up the audience, create some awareness, and more importantly, get some data back. Here's another one that they used. And we probably had, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 different types of media that were created that we pushed out to the audience so that they would engage with the content. And so what we can quickly see is we put out the content, it spikes as we would like to see it. There's the likes and the shares that we got from it. And then what we started to do was what we call remarketing. So once we put that initial bit of content out there, we reached as large a group as possible. So people that we knew were already fans of the band, people that like similar bands, people that were friends of the people that liked the band, anyone that we could think of, people that were in the right city or the right age. So we started reaching as many people as possible. But then what we did when it came time to actually promote the record was only market to those people that had engaged with the content. So if you said you like the band and we put a piece of video in front of you and you don't even watch the video, then we're not going to waste our money, because it costs money to promote, on targeting you any further. So once we got all the information of who were the people that actually watched the video, liked the video, shared it with their friends, made a comment, then we started targeting those people. And these people we targeted with geo-targeted campaigns. So we looked at what city they were in, and then we looked at what record shops were in their town, and then we would send them this message. The next bit was, then we wanted to look at the analytics. So how did the campaign actually work? Because one is to look at who liked it, but the more important information is to look at who paid for it, because we're in the business of making money. So I was actually going to do this online and show you a live demo, but it turned out it was going to be too difficult. So about an hour ago, I just got a lot of screenshots. And so what we did was we can look at, you know, the album downloads, the track downloads, the streaming. On the top, we can set a date range of any time we want to look at the data. We can look at any country, any service, and then we can start to see what happened before the campaign, and then all of a sudden the campaign. And each one of these things, each one of these rows has to do with how much money they made, how many albums they sold, how many downloads they sold, how many ad-supported streams, how many ad-supported video streams, people downloading videos and paying for it. And then what we do is we map across that. Each one of those lines represents some sort of campaign we ran. So we can see now the effectiveness of what we're doing. So rather than say we're just promoting a record, we're promoting it different ways and trying to see which thing has a spike, which activity is actually working. And you can see things like Facebook and Twitter actually drive sales. The other thing we do is we look at where the sales are occurring. So again, drilling down, we put it on a heat map. This is all part of data visualization. Do you guys, are you aware of that terminology? So rather than just see spreadsheets, we can map it up here. So we can see where the sales occurred. Again, I can put it on any date that I want or any parameters. And so I start to zoom in here to see how things are doing in South Korea. And not looking so good. There's actually not a single sale in South Korea. A little disappointing. But the data then can tell us whoever's doing this work for us in South Korea, we should probably fire them. But it might also tell us where the band should tour, you know, for their next concerts. Do they want to go where the audience already exists, or do they want to go to a place where they need to build? And so the data starts to tell us this. And so since I couldn't go into Korea, we can go into Japan. And down into Tokyo. Imagine me just clicking live. And we can start to see each one of those dots as a sale. And then we can get a postcode for each one of those and really just keep zooming in and ultimately flip it to satellite mode, see the house, go up to the front door and knock on them and thank them for buying the album. But on a more macro level, on a larger level, I wanted to talk about what all this means. Because I actually was going to spend the whole presentation today clicking around on the analytics, look at the all the information we could get, look at the accounting information, and really spend the 30 minutes diving deep into that. But it wasn't possible because I couldn't do it in this room. So I thought I would kind of take a step back and look at things a little differently. and try and understand what we're trying to achieve with all of this information. Because oftentimes we're gathering as much information as we can, but sometimes it's actually the simplest information that has the most meaning. For instance, do you know Wikipedia? So for all the information we have out there, to understand whether a new artist is going to be successful, there's only one thing that seems to matter. It's not how many likes they have on social media, how many times people watch their videos or listen to their music. The one indicator of future success is lots of searches on Wikipedia. Because that means whatever we're doing, all of a sudden people have just become aware of this artist. Nobody goes there twice. It means that all of a sudden people are looking, who is this band? I just heard of them. And when we see that spike, we know what the following week is going to mean for us. That all of a sudden, that artist is going to take off. So sometimes it's the simplest information that actually is the most important information. And so, sorry, I need to just have a drink of water. So really, when I think about the music industry, and I'm trying to understand what business we're actually in, because it used to be all about selling records. And when I look at what we're actually doing today, it looks like a very different world. So in 1971, there was an economist. His name was Herbert Alexander Simon. So in 1971, you have to imagine more than 2 decades before the World Wide Web, he started to understand what all this might mean. He was talking about big data before big data existed. And what he said in 1971 is, in an information-rich world, the wealth of information means the dearth of something else. A scarcity of whatever it is that information consumes. All right, I'll break that down because in any language that's complex. So he envisioned a world where lots of information is going to be coming at us, and that was going to create a scarcity. And what he says is 2 things. One, we're not going to be consuming the information. The information is going to be consuming something else. And what is that something else? And so he coined the term the attention economy. And what he was saying is, all this information that we think we're consuming, it's actually consuming us. And what is it consuming of us? It's our time and our attention. And that's the world we exist in today. So now as people are accessing content differently, all day long on multiple devices, wherever they are, this is actually changing how we in the content industry are creating stuff. Because now we have to start creating for people that are accessing things on different devices and create stuff specifically for them. So in the music business, it's not just make another song, make a video, release it, and promote it. It's what are we doing all day long to engage with that person. There was a book that came out last year by a guy named Douglas Rushkoff. You don't have to read it, but I read it for you, so I'll just tell you the one important part. And it was called Present Shock, was the name of the book. And in it, what he talks about is storytelling, and how storytelling has changed just recently. Because we always told stories with a beginning, middle, and an end. And inside of that storytelling, there was some sort of drama that took place. But that's not how we get information anymore. He now envisions a world that's more like storytelling as a jigsaw puzzle. Meaning, you lay down the pieces on a table, one at a time, and you can put them down in any order. But it's only after you've put enough down that you start to understand what the picture is. And this is how we're getting our information today. Do you use Facebook? Who uses Facebook? Okay, almost everyone. The idea with Facebook is if you start to follow somebody, you don't go backwards 5 years to see what their first post is and start reading every post in the exact order that they put them up there. Look at every photo in order. Well, maybe some of you do, but most people don't. That you just start following that person on that day, and little by little over time you start to understand what they're all about. And this is the world we live in. I think everyone's used a slide of him today. I think that's telling something. I'm just not sure what. But when, is it Dave from YouTube that was up earlier? When he talked about, somebody had asked him about views on YouTube. And actually what happened recently was, recently as in last year, is that YouTube changed their metric. They changed how they view content. Sorry, I'm just watching the time. They used to look at how many views, and Sai was the king of views. But that's not what matters anymore. Now what they look at is subscribers. And on average, how many minutes per week does a subscriber spend on a channel? That's what matters. You know, it's not if they watch one video a lot. It's about them coming back time and time again. It's like smoking cigarettes. It's very addictive. You know, cigarettes is not like heroin. Being in the music business, just so you know, I've met many people that have used heroin. Not me. I don't even smoke cigarettes. But the idea of heroin is you shoot one big dose in you, and it lasts for quite a long time. But cigarettes are different. Cigarettes are so addictive because you take lots of little doses all day long. And it's those little doses that make it so addictive. So in talking to those heroin addicts, they actually find it more difficult to quit smoking than to quit heroin. Because every heroin addict I know has quit using, but they can't seem to quit smoking cigarettes. And that's what social media and information is today. It's about creating this highly addictive content, not one big bit of it, but lots of little bits all the time. And that's what we want to get at. You know, I was walking in Seoul yesterday, and I think it's working. These are three friends. I went to the Taboo. I think it's Taboo. I went to lunch and dinner alone yesterday, but it allowed me to look at everyone else, and I saw a table of 4 people sitting across from each other, and all 4 of them were on their mobile phones, and they're eating dinner together. I think we have begun to create this addictive content. And how do we know it's addictive? We look at what happens when we take it away. They go through withdrawal symptoms just like a heroin addict or a cigarette smoker. They need this information, And that's what we need to be creating. And so, to wrap up here a bit, I think in many ways the pharmaceutical industry has it right, and we can learn something from them. Because they don't really try and cure anything. They don't try and cure diseases. What they try and do is create treatments where if you have heart disease or diabetes or you have high blood pressure, they don't want to cure you. They want you to take a pill every day. And this is what we need to be thinking about in our industries is we don't want to fix something and say, here's a great piece of content, watch it, we're finished. No, here's a great piece of content and I've got 100 more that you can't stop watching. So in this world of big data, it's all about getting people addicted. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation, especially very addictive presentation. Okay, so this is a good time to ask any kind of questions about the music industry and then his visions. Anybody?
It's after a conversation about addiction, it might be a little difficult to ask a question.
Okay, there's no questions. So maybe then, well, the previous speaker, and then he didn't have any question and answer session, and then well, let's use for the previous three speeches, and then if you have any questions, you can ask any questions to the speakers. And then we don't have enough time. I have one last question to Scott, and then, well, in general, I'm interested in geospatial information. And then especially music, and then I think there are lots of geographical preference. And then how do you handle and then relate it to big data, and how do you combine the location information and then the specific musics?
Sadly, in the music business, I don't think people are using enough of that geolocated information as they could, but it's there. It's there so that people can start to make informed decisions. The music industry has always been about people that had a gut feeling, that says, oh, this would really do good in Japan, this would do good in Germany, but now we can actually look at the data and see where the audience is, because we can reach them for little money without having to run a big campaign to see if we're already resonating with an audience. There's some big artists that have done really well with this. One Direction was probably, do you guys know One Direction? Yeah. Do you know any of their songs? We just know of them, not their music. But they really used this to their advantage, and it was all about big data on their campaign.
Okay, sounds like there is a big opportunity in that combination of music and then geographical information.